Every Chrysos Heirs Greek References explained. If you don't know, I ran a bit of a series on my shorts that explained every Chrysos Heirs Greek references, and since Amphoreus has come to an end, I thought it might be good to remaster them. Remaster? Is remaster the right word? Process of updating previous? Yeah, remaster is the right word. To remaster them and make them into a one video compilation in a wider screen so you're not having to look it up and down and then scroll and everything. Making it easier to watch, you know? I also updated a couple of them, adding small additions that maybe I kind of missed, and obviously I made some of these early on into Amphoreus, so I had to add a few things that changed over the course of the story. Now to note, I did not add the Astral Express members into this, because to be honest, they don't really have many Greek or Roman references in terms of Amphoreus. The Trailblazer doesn't really have anything. Talhung is more Chinese mythology than it is Greek or Roman, and I did make one for Terravox. And in terms of March 7th and Evernight, she might have something to do with like Nyx, the goddess of night, or even Morpheus, the god of dreams, with the whole connection with Enigmata and everything, but it's loose at best. I really enjoyed this series because I got to nerd out about Greek mythology and Roman history, and it connected to Star Rail, which is a game I cover. And if you guys did like this series too, you could let me know by, liking, subscribing, commenting, the drill. I might continue the series for future Honkai Star Rail characters. Obviously, there's already a lot of characters with big inspirations from folklore and legends and mythology and history, and especially since we're going to be going to a new region soon. So depending on what region that is and where it takes inspiration from, it could definitely be a fun thing to do. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoy. Aglaea's Greek reference explained. Aglaea's name comes from one of the three graces of Greek mythology, Aglaea, the goddess of beauty, glory, and adornment, which I would say is fairly fitting. Her golden threads are a reference to the Fates thread of life. The three Fate sisters control the destiny of all beings, and their golden thread represents the lifespan and fate of an individual. There's also the possibility that it's a reference to Ariadne's ball of golden thread that she gave to her lover Theseus, who used it to navigate the Minotaur's labyrinth. There's also the aspect of Aglaea that could fit Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare. Akhma is pretty much Star Rail's version of Athens, which was the city named after Athena, who was its patron goddess and protector. Aglaea's strategic approach to battle and politics and her position as the leader of Akhma would fit Athena's divine domain, and Athena was also a goddess of weaving, and Aglaea's nickname is the Gold Weaver. Aglaea's factor name, Kaulos 618, may be derived from the ancient Greek word kaulos, meaning beautiful or noble. And finally, her titan Nestia is derived from the Greek word for remembrance, which so happens to be Aglaea's playable path. Tribios Greek reference explained. Tribios' name comes from the Greek word for worn or beaten path, which they actually mentioned in the 3.1 story quest to reflect their long journey on the flame chase. Their role as the messenger of the prophecy reflects Hermes, the messenger of the gods and the protector of travelers, merchants, and thieves. They all even wear the talaria, the winged sandals of Hermes. Their role as the holy maiden of Yannisoplis could be a reference to the Oracle of Delphi, the revered priestess who delivered prophecies on behalf of Apollo. There's also the possibility, since there were three of them in the beginning of Amphoreus, and their association with the Titans of Fate, that there could be a reference to the three fates that control the lives of all people. Tribios' factor name Haplotes 405 may be derived from the ancient Greek word haplotes, meaning sincerity or generosity. Tribios' titan, Janus, was the Roman god of beginnings, transitions, and gates, which could explain Tribios' sentry gate as well as her beginning the flame chase journey. Mydei's Greek reference explained. Mydemos' name comes from the Greek god of dread and terror, Deimos, son of Hades, god of war. Mydei's story of being dropped in the river of souls and coming out with an immortal body is a direct reference to Achilles being dipped in the river Styx, coming out with an immortal body as well. They both even have one spot that is their weakness. For Mydei, it's the 10th thoracic vertebra, and for Achilles, it's a spot on his heel which was named after him. The Kremnoans are a direct reference to the Spartans. Even their reputation in decline also somewhat reflects the Spartan history, as after the Battle of Thermopylae, the main thing that kept the Spartans going was their reputation after their famed last stand, which reflects the Kremnoans' constant wish for their former glory. Mydei's drop off a cliff in the River of Souls as a baby might have actually been a reference to the old myth about Spartans dropping their weakest babies off a cliff. Mydei's factor name, Polmos 600, may be derived from the ancient Greek word polmos, meaning war or conflict. Polmos in Greek mythology is also known as a divine personification or embodiment of war. Mydei's titan, Nikador, comes from the Greek word for conqueror or victor, often used to describe Alexander the Great's empire. The saying itself most likely comes from the Greek goddess of victory, Nike, and Nikador's original name, Naias, comes from a Roman general who was famed for his bravery and exile. Castorice's Greek reference explained. Castorice was inspired by Castor and Pollux, the twin gods of guidance guidance for travelers and sailors, also known as Gemini, or in Greek Dioscuri. They were the sons of Zeus and Leda, and also Tyndareus, Leda's husband. Greek mythology's weird. Trust me, just leave it at that. Just know that Pollux had inherited Zeus's divinity, while Castor was completely mortal. The twins grew up together and became great heroes. Castor did eventually die, and Pollux was given a choice to either become a god in Olympus or share his immortality, which he ultimately did, becoming Dioscuri. If you played through the 3.2 story quest, Stario took a lot of inspiration from the original myth, as Polyxia took on the original core flame of death, in the same way as Pollux having Zeus's divinity in the beginning. Castorus then died, but was then brought back to life, and eventually gained the core flame of death from Polyxia, who became her dragon, Pollux. You can say in that way they split their divinity, becoming the Titan of life and death. Castorus' factor name, Epikeia 216, may be derived from the ancient Greek word epikeia, meaning reasonable or fairness. And finally, their Titan name, Thanatos, comes from the Greek Grim Reaper. Thanatos, the god of peaceful death, which I think is quite fitting. Anaxa's Greek reference explained. Anaxa's name and character is inspired by the Greek philosopher Anaxagoras, who was famous for being the first person to give the correct explanation of an eclipse. He was also notorious for being someone who criticized the concept of celestial objects being gods, but rather objects formed by nature. In fact, Anaxa's sentencing in Achaemon might have actually been inspired by Anaxagoras' forceful departure from Athens. One very interesting point is Anaxagoras is the one who created the concept of nous. Yes, that nous, which is Greek for intellect or mind, the cosmic mind. That is the ultimate force that moves and creates all things, a system of creation of life in the world, which Stario took inspiration from and created nous, the eon of erudition. Anaxa's factor name, Schema 720, may be derived from the ancient Greek word schema, meaning speculation or reflection. Anaxa's Titan, Circe, was a powerful sorceress in Greek mythology, daughter of Helios, the god of the sun, and the nymph Perse. She's famed for her depiction in the Odyssey, where she turned Odysseus' crew into pigs for trespassing on the island she was banished to. Hyacine's Greek reference explained. Hyacine's name comes from Hyacinthus, a Spartan prince in Greek mythology who was beloved by Apollo, god of healing, music, the sun, and about everything in between. As the two were playing discus, Zephyrus, the god of the west wind, who also loved Hyacinthus, out of jealousy blew the discus at Hyacinthus, hitting his head, killing him. In his grief, Apollo transformed Hyacinthus into the hyacinth flower, which blooms every spring. This possibly reflects Hyacinth's association with the sun, the sky, and the winds, along with her consistent depictions with flowers. Little Ika's name might be a reference to Icarus, son of the inventor Daedalus, who flew too close to the sun using wax wings and died. Pegasuses themselves originated from the myth of the winged horse that sprung from the blood of Medusa after she was beheaded by Perseus, said to be the child of Poseidon and Medusa. Hyacinth's factor name, Elios 252, may be derived from the ancient Greek word Elios, meaning mercy or compassion. Hyacinth's Titan, Aglaea, was the mythical eagle that carried Zeus/Jupiter's lightning bolt in both Greek and Roman mythology, also famed as the Eagle constellation. Cipher's Greek reference explained. While Cipher's name has no specific references in Greek or Roman history, the term cipher refers to a disguised way of writing, a code, and her title, the Fleet-Footed, is often used as a descriptor for the fastest heroes and or gods in Greek myth. While Hermes might be more associated with Tribios, as his title is the Messenger of the Gods, he is also known as the patron god of thieves and travelers, which might explain why Cipher's boots are designed after the Talaria, Hermes' winged sandals. Other than that, Cipher might also have some inspirations from Atalanta, as she was also described as a fleet-footed huntress and famously challenged any suitor to a foot race, promising to marry the man who could beat her. The only man to win, Hippomenes, only won by dropping golden apples that Atalanta couldn't resist chasing after, which HSR might have twisted in a dark way to the petty change that ultimately caused Cipher's end. And Atalanta was later turned into a lion, which might be related to why Cipher is a cat girl. And yes, I do know the character she's inspired from in Honkai Impact 3rd is also a cat girl, but I am trying to connect this to a Greek reference, which does actually fit with Atalanta with the lion girl and cat girl thing. Dolos, Cipher's home city, is named after the Greek god of trickery and cunningness. Cipher's factor name, Oriexis 945, may be derived from the ancient Greek word Oriexis, meaning longing, desire, or appetite. Cipher's titan, Zagreus, is the Greek god of rebirth and often tied to an early form of Dionysus, giving him divine domain of wine, festivity, and madness. Phainon's Greek reference explained. Phainon's name comes from the Greek god who is associated with the planet Saturn. The name's also derived from the Greek word for shining or radiant, which definitely fits his design, and the consistent shining sun behind him. The association with the planet Saturn also gives a tie to Kronos, the king of the Titans, as Kronos' equivalent in Roman myth is Saturn. There might also be a tie to Phainon, the son of Helios, who couldn't handle the sun chariot's power and let the sun scorch the earth, which may tie back to Phainon as he gathers core flames in himself, and often describes himself bringing in the new dawn. During the 3.4 story, he references Sisyphus' punishment when describing his cycles, carrying a boulder boulder up a hill to watch it fall back down, which I would definitely say is accurate to his situation. Kaslana in Chinese has the same first characters as Chaos, which is Greek for chaos, and that fits as chaos was the first primordial being, a vast empty void from which everything else emerged, and Phainon was the one who carried out all these chaotic cycles, bringing in the birth of the new Amphoreus. Phainon's factor name Nikos 496 may be derived from the ancient Greek word nikos, meaning quarrel or strife. Additionally, the number 496 is considered a perfect number, which may be related to why he was a perfect vessel for Iron Tomb. Phainon's titan Kephale means head in Greek, both in the literal way as well in terms of leadership, and his title of World Bearer is a reference to the titan Atlas, a titan that was condemned to hold the sky for eternity. And from the 3.4 story quest, the punishment description is definitely much more fitting than being revered. Hysilens Greek reference explained. Hysilens' name is a reference to Silenus, an old satyr god of the forest that had a divine domain of drunkenness and winemaking in Greek mythology. Silenus is also known as the teacher and follower of Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, festivity, ecstasy, and madness. Along with her identity as a siren, a mythical female creature of the sea famed for their beautiful voices that lure sailors to their deaths, this connection to festivity, ecstasy, and madness explains why her songs drive people to drunken ecstasy, even when they haven't drunk that much, affecting their mind in a controlled madness. This also gives a reference to her endless pursuit of banquets and festivals as a part of the meaning for her life. There's also a reference with her original name, Electra, to Electra, the daughter of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra, who saved her brother Orestes by helping him escape when their mother had ended their father's life with their lover. But Electra later helped Orestes when he came back to avenge their father. Hysilens' factor name, Aporia 432, may have been derived from the ancient Greek word aporia, which refers to a state of doubt, perplexity, or impasse, which may be referring to her emulated path of nihility and her ability to force people into a drunken state. Her titan Phagusa is a reference to Phaethusa, the daughter of the sun god Helios. She and her sister were famed for watching over her father's sacred herd of sheep and cattle. Cerydra's Greek reference explained. Cerydra's name may be inspired by the Cyrene hind, a giant female deer that was sacred to Artemis. Capturing it was one of Heracles' 12 labors. There's also the possibility that her name may be a reference to Julius Caesar, as she is referred to as Caesar in JP instead of Imperator. She even references Julius Caesar when she says, "I came, I saw, I conquered." And the cherry on top is that she also has a salad named after her, the Ceri salad. The term Imperator is actually a Roman title for a victorious supreme commander under the Roman Republic. The title of dux that Cerydra bestows upon high-ranked members of the military was a Roman term for high-ranking military commanders responsible for commanding multiple legions. A lot of Cerydra's actions in the way she runs Akhama is more of a reference to the Roman Republic rather than Greece. Her emulation name Hubris 504 refers to the Greek word hubris, meaning pride, insolence, or outrage, which reflects her ambitions to conquer the stars and how she takes light of the Titans. Her Titan Talanton in Greek culture refers to the balance scales. Famously, the Talanton scales was used by Zeus when weighing the fortunes of men, symbolizing the balance of good and evil, life and death, or success and failure. Terravox's Greek reference explained. Terravox's name is derived from the Latin words for terra, which means earth, and vox, which means voice, so very literally voice of the earth. The Droma species that Terravox is the leader of is derived from the Greek word dromedary, which translates to running camel. I couldn't find a specific creature from the Greek myth that Dromas are based on, but there is a questline called Droma's Heracles' 12 Trials. That is a direct reference to Heracles' 12 labors, with each trial representing one of the labors. Terravox's simulation name, Scopia 365, loosely refers to the Greek word for watching, which may reflect the final cycle as he watches over the life that came from the earth as a follower of the permanence. Terravox's titan, Georios, is derived from the Greek word for farmer, literally translating to earth worker. There are also a lot of references to Prometheus from Georios, as he sculpted the mountain dwellers Andromeces from the earth in the same way as Prometheus sculpted humanity from clay, and Georios brought the living flame to Amphoreus like Prometheus brought fire to humanity. Finally, there are also aspects of Hephaestus, as the mountain dwellers in Akhama often take on roles as blacksmiths and masons. Cyrene's Greek reference explained. Cyrene's name comes from a nymph princess from Thessaly, famed for her strength, even wrestling a lion that attacked her father's flock. That act made Apollo fall in love with her, and like how all successful relationships start, he kidnapped her. If you couldn't tell, this is clearly sarcasm. There he founded a new city and named it after her, Cyrene, which is a real place you can go visit. Cyrene's identity as the demiurge comes from the Greek philosopher Plato, who defines it as a subordinate god who creates the physical world, which matches Cyrene's origin and identity as the heart of Amphoreus, and how she did bring about a true beginning of the real Amphoreus. This identity as a creator goddess, and with her wearing a wedding dress, may be a possible reference to Hera, goddess of childbirth and weddings, and or Gaia, literally Mother Earth. The demiurge matrix protocol Elysium is a reference to the Elysian Fields, the paradise where the souls of heroes and those who lived virtuously would be sent. And this is also why Cyrene's real name, quote unquote, is probably Elysia, the same name as her Honkai Impact 3rd counterpart. ID's Elysiae, when translated to Greek, is the Temple of Elysium, and the reason why Cyrene/Elysia and Phainon, the hero, are from there. And the field part of Elysian Fields is why there's such an emphasis on golden wheat stalks when Phainon and Cyrene talk nostalgically about their home. Her simulation name, Phylea093, is derived from the Greek word philia and minor goddess Philiotis, both of which represent love in the sense of friendship and affection. Cyrene's original titan, Orynyx, is derived from the Greek words for Oros, meaning mountain, and Nyx, meaning night, which is also the name of the goddess of night. And their domain over time may be a reference to the Greek king of the Titans and time, Kronos. And that's all of the Chrysos Heirs Greek references explained. I'm very sure I missed some things. There were a lot in Amphoreus, and if you caught something that I didn't, you can let me know in the comments below. Also, if you're curious, out of all of the Greek reference shorts that I made, do you want to take a guess about which one got the most views? It wasn't Cyrene, it wasn't Phainon, it was Cipher.
Consider it my gift. Until next time.
I see you. No judgment. Just making your preferences known, huh? Maybe I should add more cat curls to my thumbnails. Anyways, as I said before, if you like this series, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll continue this with the future Honkai style characters and maybe make some for the currently released characters. With all of that being said, I'll see you tomorrow.